Allow me to just say that if you never, ever, ever listen to anything else that I say, please listen to this because I have lived through this lesson time and time and time again, and I can tell you it is so important. Money as a topic, as a category, money in and of itself is so important in relationships. Boy, girl, girl, boy, tree, squirrel. I don't care. Whatever is happening, if you are in a relationship with an individual, you need to be talking about money early on. Hey guys, with that being said, my name is Jackie from the Financial Literacy Tribe, and I bring you videos on money talk, including personal finance, debt, and investing. And today we have a very, very important topic. We are talking about the top money questions that you should be asking your partner when you go out on a date. This is before you even decide that you even like the person. You need to be grilling them and asking them these questions because, as mentioned, speaking from experience, if you're gonna get serious with this individual, it's gonna come up. It's gonna come up, and if you don't have conversations and keep the communication lines open, I'm not a psychic, but it's not gonna be good. So definitely let us jump right in. So as I was saying, I am very much speaking from experience. I was in a relationship with an individual who had very extremely extravagantly different views on money than I did. And it made things so difficult. It made things so hard because for that individual, it just wasn't a priority. And for me, it was. And so we were at odds with each other 24/7. And I don't have to tell you that it obviously did not work out. Okay, so definitely I know what I'm talking about when I say that money is a very important topic for any type of relationship. So with that being said, let's talk about the top questions that you should be asking and why. Okay, let's do it. Where do you see yourself in 10 to 20 years? I like this question because this question will give you a very good indication very early on what that person has planned for themselves, whether that person even freaking has a plan to begin with, or are they just the type of person who just plans on kind of YOLO winging it. Obviously, whatever it is that this individual has to say, just listen to it. It's not the type of question that you're asking to like bring on judgment. It's literally just to probe for information to see where that person's head's at. It's a good way to see, is this an individual who wants to have like a family and like a white picket fence and a golden retriever? Is this a type of person who is very, very vested in their work and all they care about is just getting promoted up the ranks in terms of their work? Is this the type of person who's kind of flying by the seat of their pants? We don't know. And I definitely advise that when you're asking this question, like I said, just keep an open mind, especially if you're just dating the person. Like, who cares? Like, don't judge them or whatever the case may be. It's just to ask and kind of see where their head's at. And it's going to give you a good indication also of how it is that they feel about finances. What do you like to spend your money on? Oh, this one is such a good one. And the reason that I like this one is I feel like it is such a good way to get to know that person, even beyond finances. If they're sitting there saying that they're spending all of their money on like, I don't know, going out to the bar every single week or, liquor or something like that, then you know that that is a party person, a social butterfly, versus if they're just like, I spent all my money on my cats. Then you know that that person is like me and spends a lot of time at home with their cats. So definitely it's a good way to see what type of person it is, what it is that they like to do in their spare time, and also where the bulk of their money is going. How much do you make currently? This can be a taboo one, especially if you're like on your first date or something. You may want to like proceed with caution. But definitely if you're dating somebody and it's getting serious, it's important to know how much it is that they're making. You should know if they're making $16,000 a year versus $100,000 a year. Like, it's important for your planning. Because definitely, obviously, if the individual does not make a lot of money and has no plans on increasing the amount of money that they make in the future, it's going to be harder for you. I don't think that that's an unfair question at all. I also think, akin to that one, if you make more than the individual, it's a good idea to just sit down and have a conversation with yourself about whether or not you're okay with that as an individual. Historically, I'm going to be 100% honest with you, I don't think that I've ever dated a person that made more than I did. I'm being honest with you. I don't think that I did. However, early on, I had a conversation with myself and decided that that wasn't a big deal to me. Like if the person was a good person and a hard worker, that was what was more important to me rather than them being a baller and being able to take me in their Maybach and go shopping or whatever. That was less important to me. So I think definitely it's a good idea to know. And definitely it's a good idea to have a conversation with yourself about how much weight that carries for you personally. Oh, it's another good one. What was your family's financial situation like? This is a very, very important one, not because it matters in particular as to whether the parents were budgeting or whatever, but more so because people in general tend to adopt the same kind of attitude towards money and the same habits that their parents had. So definitely if you're the person that you're going on the date with is like, yeah, my parents were a hot mess and they used to argue about money and they didn't know anything and I don't know anything either. That's a flag. It's a flag because they're going to carry most of the time the same exact attitude that their parents had about finances. So definitely do not be afraid to probe. Do not be afraid to ask because it is very important. I will also say that there are some cases where the person had a hard time growing up and now as a result, they're hell-bent on doing the opposite of whatever it was that was done in their house. Like in my house, we didn't really talk about budgeting. There wasn't a whole lot of financial literacy or information going around. So honestly, that's probably one of the reasons why it's my passion to be super financially literate and on top of things with my finances because I didn't have it. So sometimes you'll have that, but definitely either way, it's worth asking. How secure do you feel in your current career? This one carries weight only because if the individual has I want to be careful with my words for this one. If the individual has the type of job where they're not crazy about it, then definitely you should just be aware that maybe there's a strong potential that they're going to be looking for a completely different job or looking to make a career switch, or maybe they're still finding themselves and they don't even know what it is that they want to do for a living. So definitely it's worth noting because those types of decisions are obviously going to impact the relationship financially, right? If the person is often in between jobs and doesn't really know what's going on and doesn't really know what they're doing, then they're probably not going to have a lot of disposable income, right? So that's something to keep in mind. I'm not saying that it should carry a ton of weight because, you're allowed to switch careers. What the heck? You're allowed to do whatever you want to do. I'm a nurse and I do finance stuff. Okay, it's not a big deal. But definitely being in between jobs a lot is going to be definitely potentially a flag. So it is something that you're going to want to ask. Do you have debt? Woo! It's a big one. It's a big question. I was doing research for a different video that you guys should be on the lookout for. But that was one of the main reasons that people end up breaking up is because of debt. So definitely I think that it is worth it and it is important to have that conversation very, very early on. I'll give you an example, a perfect example. In my relationship, my boo doesn't have any debt. He literally moved in with his parents after college so that he could live rent-free and just pay off all of his student loans and has managed to just live his life up to this point in his 30s with zero debt. So good job, Dink. Versus me, as you guys already know, because I talk about it all the time, started out with $90,000 in debt a couple years back, and I'm currently down to $55,000 in debt. So we are very much different in that regard. But it's okay. It's not a hindrance for us because we had the conversation about it very early on. He knew back when he was first taking me out on dates. He knew that I had a substantial amount of debt, but he also knew that I was working very, very hard to try to get it down. So definitely just having the conversation, being open and honest with each other, it's huge. It's such a huge, huge thing. So definitely do not be afraid to talk about debt. This one can be a scary one, and when I was like dating, I used to be kind of scared to like bring this up because sometimes men specifically will look at you like, uh-huh, what now? But I think it's important to talk about kids. Do you want kids? Do you already have kids? And if you want kids, when were you thinking of having kids? Obviously, try really hard not to like frame that question like you're a psychopath. Like, oh, I want you to have my babies. Like don't say it like in a scary way. But it's important with regards to finances because guess what, guys? Kids are freaking expensive and child support is freaking expensive. So definitely if you're dating somebody who has children, plural, or a child or whatever, that's something that you're going to want to factor in because obviously it is going to be somewhat of a financial responsibility on their part, at least I hope. And if they're not paying for child support for their kids, that would also be a huge flag. But definitely that. And then also if they plan on having children or they want to have children, can you guys afford it? Can they afford it? There's a lot of financial questions that goes hand in hand with that as well. So it is something to consider. Ooh, what is your credit score? Again, this is one that may seem a little bit taboo. It's like, we want my blood type and my social security number too? Stalker. But definitely it's important to know. And the reason why I had no issues asking and why I think that it's super, super important is because in my opinion, your credit score is the most honest rendition of your financial life. Okay? A credit score doesn't have emotions. It doesn't cast judgment. It is literally just a number based off of the decisions that you have been making in your life. There is no lying or justifying or whatever. It is what it is. So if this is an individual who does not pay their bills on time, has tons and tons of debt, is a hot mess, has liens against them and all type of crazy legal actions against them, it is going to show. There's no way that they can hide that. It just is what it is. It's on there. So for that reason, I think that it's a really great idea to ask. Maybe not on the first date. Okay, because that's a little stalkery. But definitely if you plan on getting serious with that individual and things are kind of progressing and going along, don't be afraid to ask. Do not be afraid to ask because let me tell you, it will tell you a heck of a lot more sometimes than what they are telling you, especially if they're being less than honest about their finances. So that's my recommendation. Shoot, do a whole background check if you can. That might be too much. I don't know. Maybe not. I watch a lot of like Criminal Minds and Law and Order. People are crazy out there, boo-boo. They're crazy, okay? And that's gonna do it for me today. I hope you found today's video to be helpful. Definitely, if you did, be sure to leave me a like. And as mentioned, be sure to subscribe to my channel if you're not currently subscribed. If you want additional content similar to what we covered today, then be sure to check out my blog, which is available at focusfrugalfab.com. I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye.